Hi, you guys. This is Sheree Draymond. It's a targeted individual being targeted in Albuquerque, New Mexico at the moment, also where I reside. I'm getting a lot of questions, about my targeting and what has to do with my children and this and that. I want to bring things from the top to when I was married before I was a TI to how I met this person who ultimately targeted me. Okay, I was married for about 9 years to a guy named Darren Miller, and he is a part of my targeting also. Um, in October of 2009, when I think it was the 12th, it was a day after our anniversary because we got married October 11th, 2002. So it was a day after. I ended up leaving him for good. I was planning on leaving him. He knew that because he kept cheating on me with a variety of other married women. So I had that going, and he knew I was planning on leaving him. I wasn't planning on staying with him. But because he knew that, he threw a fit one night, took his knee and put it in the middle of my back while I took 6 to 7 blows to the head and neck. I couldn't move. I couldn't do anything. The only thing that saved me is my friend, which I'm not going to say her name because I'm going to keep her private. But she called in the middle of that. And so I was able to tell her, call the cops, call the cops. And of course, Darren was really scared because he had beat the shit out of me. So he went to his dad's to prevent my friend from calling the cops. As he did that, I got just enough service on my cell phone because he disabled the phone, the house phone, because we lived in the middle of nowhere, and he disabled that, so I couldn't call from there. So I had just enough service on my cell phone to call the cops. And by the time he came back from his dad's to come back, the cops came, and the guns were drawn on him, and he went to jail for domestic battery. That was the last day. Well, because we had kids together, the judge ordered that Darren would get every other weekend. I tried to fight for against that, but that's what happened. So when my kids went with their dad, I let my oldest daughter go with him, knowing it wasn't his kid, but he had been raising her since she was 6 months old, because I didn't want my boys separated from my daughter. Okay, so they would go there. I was all alone. I had nobody. I didn't know what was going on without my kids. I was married for a long time, 9 years, and this was all new to me. So what does stupid dumbass Sheree do? She goes to the bar. Was I even a drinker? No, I was drinking Coke at the bar, but just because I was so lonely and needed to be around people, that's what I decided to do. And so when I get into the bar, I meet a guy named Jeremy Hauser, Nevaeh's dad, my daughter's dad, and this is what ties in to why I'm a TI. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But I meet Nevaeh's dad at a bar. Um, and he happened to be dealing with the CPS lady who later targeted me. So he was dealing with her because he had 2 kids in foster care at the time. Excuse me, 2 kids in foster care at the time. And so he was dealing with her, and I met him, and I wouldn't meet the CPS worker until I think 4 months after we were together when she came to the house. That was the first time I would ever lay eyes on the person who ever targeted me. But anyway, she came later down the road. But anyway, so that's what happened. I was vulnerable. I was weak, and I got played. Jeremy Hauser is a player, and he's also a perp. So my exes are perps. Later down the road, and could I imagine that he would sell his own daughter for his freedom? No, I can never imagine that. But anyway, that's going to be later down the road story. But anyway, so we get together. I got together with him maybe a couple months after me and my ex-husband separated, and I ended up pregnant right away with Nevaeh. And I found out she was a girl in about April, and that was the same time I met Kayla Ellis. I met her, and I guess she was jealous and didn't like me from the get because she wanted Jeremy's kids too. She wanted to make money adopting at least Maria out, his daughter. Her son was considered a throwaway project, but since he was never adopted, he just went from foster home to foster home. But Maria was the prize. So during this time, I seen Jeremy trying to get his kids back. I see him trying to jump through hoops with this woman who later targeted me. I see him, and every time he would jump through a hoop, she would add another hoop. It was like he wasn't getting nowhere. He wasn't getting nowhere with her. It was, and he just finally gave up because he didn't see no point into doing any of it because he would jump through these hoops and she just kept adding another hoop. And it wasn't getting nowhere. Because she wanted Maria, his daughter, his oldest daughter. So, but anyway, it came to a time when I met her and I made an Easter basket while Maria was in foster care. The plan was Jolene Foster, which is another one of my perps, and Jeremy's mother of his first two children. It's the mother of his first two kids in foster care, and she was supposed to do Cody's Easter basket, and I would do Maria's because I had two boys and a girl. So I figured if I could give Maria the extra stuff that I had for Nakomi because it's easier that way, two. So I did my two boys, and then I did my daughter, and then I did his daughter. I didn't know that decision would ultimately cost my life. I didn't know that if I would go back, I would have never did anything like help try to get his kids back. I would have never, if I could take it back, I probably would have never did any of that if it meant it would cost my life and my children's lives. But that's the decision that I did because I love children, and it cost me. It cost me my life today. I don't have my children today. I'm targeted. And people ask me all the time, you can get your kids back. You got to do this and this and this and this. I'm targeted, you guys. Do you know what that means? That means I don't know a lawyer who's not involved yet. I don't know who's sincere and who's real. No one's going to fight for me. I'm targeted. I'm labeled as a terrorist threat for making the Easter basket. Maybe there was a chocolate bomb in there. Ooh, it's asinine. But I get these questions all the time that are that I don't understand. And that if you're targeted, you surely would understand. There is no help for us right now. None. Yeah, it's being exposed, but as of right now, I make these videos so my daughter knows the truth. I make these videos so other people know the truth, but we're targeted. We don't have the resources, the help that's needed for a TI. And I don't know how to fight for my daughter back. Have I reported the CPS worker? I sure have. Have I reported other people? I sure have. But I'm still targeted. It hasn't stopped. It's decreased, but it hasn't stopped. But anyway, so that's what happened. I made an Easter basket, and this happened in April 2010 around Easter time. I just found out I was having a girl. And Nevaeh was born in September of that year. 2 years after that, Kayla Ellis set her eyes on me. And this is what she did. She hired a boy 2 doors down from me to, once I gave my daughter a bath, to come in and take my daughter and staged it as a setup that my daughter escaped. Okay, a 2-year-old doesn't grab their towel and close the door behind them when they escape. They're not there. They're not there. And this is what happened. And I knew she was kidnapped. I even told the cops my daughter was kidnapped. No one closes the door behind them when they're 2 years old. That's not what they do. I've had my other kids, when they escaped, they left the door wide open. This door was shut. I had to open it to go find my daughter naked because I just given her a bath, and I was going to get her clothes upstairs. Come downstairs, she's gone. And she's wrapped in her towel still, but this boy's a teenager kidnapping a fucking naked baby. And then I get harassed, call me a bad mother, this and that, when he came in my house and took my daughter. And then I asked the cops I wanted to report kidnapping charges. He talked me out of it. And that's the worst mistake I made, that he talked me out of it. Because if he didn't talk me out of it, I probably would have never been targeted. And I would have never went through more sit-ups and more bullshit. Because he talked me out of it. The next day, the CPS came into my life and asked me to take a drug test, which, by the way, I passed. My drug use is later down the road when she hires somebody eventually to get me to do it. But no, this is actually how it happened. This is actually how it started. So she does that and comes to my house the next day and asks me how I'm going to prevent my daughter from getting outside. And I'm thinking, why the fuck was she there? Why was CPS even called? Even if she did escape, which I know she didn't, but kids do. She wasn't harmed. You take your kid, I mean, this is a small town of 2,500 people. It's a small town. You take the child and you bring him back to its mother. You don't need to call fucking CPS. She wasn't out on the road because she was kidnapped. Because the neighbor came in and took her. We ain't stupid around these parts. But anyway, that's what happened. That's the first part. I'll get more into detail about the second part. Oh, I wanted to mention, oh, yes, I did want to mention this because I don't want to make too long of a videos, you guys. And it looks like it's at 14 minutes. Okay. When CPS came into my life, I lived in St. Mary's, Idaho. I tried to escape her whim because I already knew how she was. I'd seen Jeremy jumping through these hoops and her adding more hoops, so I wanted to get away from her. So I moved all the way to a different county. I moved to Mullen, Idaho, which is Shoshone County. And before I was living in St. Mary's, Idaho, in Benoit County. So I will move to Shoshone County. And guess what happens? She follows me into that county. Don't tell me this bitch didn't target me. And that's not the only county she follows me into. But this time, she she really did me in. She in May of 2013, she takes all four of my kids because my daughter, nothing has to do with drugs at this point. It's all set ups, all set ups. She takes my I have to take my oldest daughter into the hospital, so I leave. This probably wasn't the best choice or decision I made, but I left my 2.5-year-old daughter at the time with her brother that was 11. He was very mature for his age. In the state of Idaho, there is no age restriction on sibling. So I didn't do anything against the law. It was probably just like a poor decision. But anyway, I take my oldest daughter to the emergency room because my youngest daughter took a cinder block and kind of hit my daughter's foot, and my daughter was complaining about it. So I took her to the emergency room, and I get back, there's cops. They said my daughter had escaped again. Huh. I don't believe that one either. I wasn't there to feel in my heart if it was a kidnapper or not, but I could tell you right now, the first one was, and this one I'm pretty sure was another setup to take my kids away. Because the next day CPS came in and took all four of my kids away from me. And then 3 days later, I had a jigaboo courtroom with my ex-husband being there. And they all made it look like they were against each other, but he happens to get the boys out of foster care. The girls have to stay because they're not related to him. So I have to tell you about part two about how I fought for the girls back and stuff, but I just want to keep that in mind. My drug use didn't happen until my girls were taken away. I mean, all four of my kids were taken away. I went to court. It was a jigaboo court. Kayla Ellis was there, and she looked at me, and I was a ball of mess. You just took all four of my babies away. And I was a ball of mess. And she looked at me and she said, "Don't you think you're being a little too emotional about this, Cherie?" Those were her words. And so if anyone can sit there and tell me this person didn't targeted me, they're wrong, because she did. She hated me. She was jealous over me. She made smirk remarks towards me, and this was one of them. Also, another remark she told me my oldest daughter was retarded, which my oldest daughter is not retarded, and my oldest daughter is convinced that she has retardation. She has a speech impediment. She's not retarded. Because she can't pronounce words doesn't mean she's retarded. So she has my oldest daughter convinced that she's retarded because of this bullshit. But anyway, I just want to keep it this short for right now, and I will come back later on to discuss part two of how I fought for the girls back, and I won. I won. Maybe that was a setup to win, to see if she knew I would fight for my kids back or not. And this is my targeting is covert at this time, so I have no clue what's going on behind the scenes. It's so covert, but it does go over, and we'll discuss more about that. And that doesn't happen until 2016 when it went completely over, when I lost my mind. But right now it's just covert. These little harassments, these little snirks. Things end up things do end up missing in my place of living, but I knew who it was, and I was like, oh, he's just a loser, because he stole my boys' PS4. I had no idea I was being targeted then, because it was so covert. But anyway, I'm gonna go relax now, and we'll do part 2 tomorrow. Thank you. Thanks for listening, you guys. Bye.